I found out my pastor husband had HIV the same night our church celebrated our 10th anniversary. The congratulations were still ringing in my ears when I saw the message. Not on his phone, on mine. A forwarded lab result from a number I didn't recognize. Subject line, Pastor David's results, confidential. My hands went numb. The ballroom still smelled like vanilla cake and expensive perfume. 200 church members had just stood and applauded as David kissed my forehead under the crystal chandelier, calling me his precious gift from God. The same forehead now slick with cold sweat. I clicked the attachment in the bathroom stall, my designer heels pressing into cold marble tile. The letters blurred, HIV positive. Viral load, detectable. Date of test, 6 months ago. 6 months. We'd made love 3 nights ago. He'd quoted Song of Solomon into my neck, his pastoral voice thick with what I thought was devotion. My stomach lurched. I gripped the toilet seat, but nothing came up except the question that would haunt me forever: how long had he known? The bathroom door swung open. Laughter echoed off the walls, Sister Maria and her daughter, still giggling about David's anniversary speech. That man loves her so purely, Sister Maria gushed. The way he looks at her. That's godly love. I pressed my fist against my mouth. When they left, I stared at my reflection. My champagne-colored dress, the one David picked because he said it made me look angelic, now felt like a costume. The diamond cross necklace he'd gifted me that evening caught the light, mocking me. I needed to breathe. Think. But my mind kept circling back to one thing: if he'd been positive for 6 months, who was he with when he contracted it? My phone buzzed. Another message from the unknown number: check his study. Bottom drawer. Red notebook. My heart hammered against my ribs. I stepped out of that bathroom a different woman. The Soline who believed in fairy tale marriages and God's protection. She died in that store. What walked out was someone who needed answers more than she needed air. The party continued downstairs. Music. Praise. My husband's laughter carrying through the halls. I turned toward his private study instead. David's study smelled like leather and lies. I locked the door behind me, fingers shaking so badly I almost couldn't turn the deadbolt. The room was exactly as he kept it, immaculate. Theological books arranged by height. Awards polished to reflection. A framed photo of us on our wedding day, both grinning like we'd won the lottery. I yanked open the bottom drawer. The red notebook sat there like a loaded gun. My breathing echoed too loud in the silence. Somewhere below, the DJ announced the couple's dance. Our song, 10,000 Hours, by Dan and Shay, started playing. I could picture David scanning the room for me, that practice concern creasing his forehead. I flipped open the notebook. Names. Dates. Hotels. The handwriting was definitely his, that same meticulous script he used for sermon notes. But these weren't Bible verses. Sarah M., Hilton Downtown, room 402, said she's getting tested monthly. Jasmine K., her apartment, wrapped it twice, should be fine. Monica, conference in Atlanta, she doesn't know I'm married. The list went on. 12 names. 12 women. Some with check marks. Some with stars. 1, Jasmine K. circled in red ink with a note, thinks she might have given me something. Avoiding her calls. The date next to that entry. 7 months ago. My vision tunneled. The room tilted. He hadn't just cheated. He'd kept score. Documented his betrayals like a project manager tracking deliverables. And that last entry, God, that last entry, showed he'd known. Known something was wrong. Known he might be infected. And he'd still come home to me. Still touched me. Still made love to me with that tender, worshipful expression that made me feel like the only woman in the world. I photographed every page with trembling hands. A key scraped in the lock. Soline. Baby, you in there? I shoved the notebook back, slammed the drawer. My heart tried to jackhammer through my ribs. Just needed a minute, I called out, Surprised my voice sounded almost normal. The heels were killing me. The door handle jiggled. You locked it. Accidentally, I lied, smoothing my dress. Come in now. I unlocked the door. David stood there in his custom suit, concerned painting his features into something that looked like love. Everything okay? He asked, reaching for my face. I let him touch me. Let him press his lying lips to my forehead. Perfect, I whispered. I got tested at 6 a.m. the next morning. Not at our church's affiliated clinic. Not at the hospital where David served on the board. I drove 40 minutes to a Planned Parenthood in a neighborhood where no one knew Pastor David's wife. The waiting room was sterile and silent. A teenage girl sat across from me, knees bouncing, eyes red. An older woman filled out paperwork with the slow precision of someone who'd done this before. I felt like an imposter in my Lululemon leggings and Kate Spade pass, the pastor's wife getting an HIV test like some streetwalker. Then I remembered the notebook. The 12 names. His lips on my body. I wasn't better than anyone here. I was just better at lying to myself. Solin Martin. The nurse's voice was kind. I followed her back, my legs mechanical. She didn't ask why I was there. Didn't judge. Just drew my blood with efficient gentleness and told me results would take 3 days. 3 days. My voice cracked. For the comprehensive panel. We test for HIV, hepatitis, syphilis. All of them, I interrupted. Test for everything. She paused, reading something in my face. Are you safe at home? The question punched through my chest. Was I safe? In my 4-bedroom house with the white picket fence and the Bible verse painted in the entryway. With the man who led thousands in worship every Sunday. I don't know, I whispered. The first honest thing I'd said in 12 hours. She squeezed my hand. We have resources. Counselors. You don't have to go back. He doesn't hit me, I said quickly. Then softer, he just infects me. The nurse's expression shifted into something that looked like rage on my behalf. Then you stay gone until you know. You understand? Don't let him touch you again until we call. I nodded, tears finally breaking free. In the parking lot, I sat in my car for 20 minutes, watching normal people live normal lives. A mom with a toddler. A couple holding hands. A man talking too loud on his phone. Mind burst. David, where'd you disappear to this morning? Made your favorite breakfast. Love you, precious. I typed, went for a drive to think. Be home soon. Then I sat there and thought about how easy it is to become a woman you don't recognize. I went home and played the role of my life. For 3 days, I smiled. Laughed at David's jokes. Sat in the front row Sunday morning while he preached about faithfulness. Marriage is a covenant before God, he declared, voice booming through the sanctuary. When we honor our spouse, we honor him. The congregation erupted in amens. I clapped too, my hands numb. Sister Ruth leaned over during offering. You two are such an inspiration. The way Pastor looks at you. Pure reverence. I wanted to vomit in the collection plate. At night, I claimed headaches. Exhaustion. My period, anything to keep David on his side of the bed. He grew suspicious by day 2. You feeling okay, baby? He traced patterns on my back, his touch now feeling like contamination. You've been distant. Just tired from the anniversary planning, I lied, every word ash in my mouth. Give me a few days. He kissed my shoulder. Take all the time you need, precious. I'm here when you're ready. The tenderness in his voice was the cruelest part. He'd compartmentalized so completely that he believed his own performance. In his mind, he was probably the devoted husband, patiently waiting for his wife's affection. The cognitive dissonance would have been impressive if it wasn't destroying me. On day 3, my phone rang during Wednesday Bible study. Unknown number. My heart stopped. I need to take this, I whispered to the woman beside me, already standing. In the hallway, I pressed the phone to my ear. Hello, Miss Martin. This is Planned Parenthood calling with your test results. The floor swayed. I gripped the wall. And HIV test came back negative. Hepatitis panel, negative. Everything's clear. I slid down the wall, tears streaming. You're sure? We're sure. However, she paused, these tests detect infections after a window period. If exposure was recent, we recommend retesting in 3 months. 3 months. The words hit like a sentencing. I'd escaped this time. But David's infection was 6 months old. How many times had we been intimate in 6 months? How many times had I been playing Russian roulette without knowing the gun was loaded? Miss Martin. Are you still there? Yeah, I whispered. I'm here. Inside the Bible study room, David's voice carried through the door, let's pray for the sanctity of marriage. I sat in that hallway and laughed until I cried. I waited until the next Sunday night. After service. After the last deacon left. After David locked up the church and we drove home in comfortable silence that masked my screaming rage. He was pouring wine when I said it. I know about Jasmine. His hand froze mid-pour. Wine sloshed over the rim, bleeding across the white marble countertop like a wound. What? His voice was careful. Controlled. And Sarah. And Monica. And the 9 others whose names are in your little red book. The color drained from his face. He set the bottle down slowly, like diffusing a bomb. Solene. And I know about the HIV. The silence that followed was the loudest thing I'd ever heard. David's mouth opened. Closed. His pastoral composure shattered into something raw and desperate. Baby, let me explain. Explain. My voice came out ice cold. Explain how you fucked 12 women behind my back. Or explain how you contracted HIV and then came home and made love to your wife. Which part needs explaining, David? He reached for me. I stepped back so fast I hit the counter. Don't you dare touch me. It wasn't 12, he said, like that mattered. Like reducing the body count made betrayal more palatable. Some of those names were prospects. I spat. Planning ahead. Tell me, when you circled Jasmine's name and wrote avoiding her calls, was that before or after you suspected you were positive? His jaw clenched. I was scared. You were scared. I screamed, 10 years of perfect pastor's wife decorum exploding. You were scared so you decided to potentially infect your wife? The woman who stood by you through seminary. Who emptied her college fund so you could build your ministry. Who defended you when your own mother said you'd never amount to anything. Tears streamed down his face now. I'm getting treatment. My viral load is almost undetectable. I was going to tell you. When? When were you going to tell me? After I tested positive. After I got sick. I laughed bitterly. Or were you just going to keep protecting me with your silence? He slumped against the counter. I love you. Those 3 words, once my lifeline, now felt like another manipulation. Another lie wrapped in pastoral packaging. No, I said quietly. You love what I represent. The perfect wife. The ministry asset. The woman who makes you look holy. I grabbed my purse. Where are you going? I looked at him, really looked at him, and saw a stranger. Anywhere you're not. I drove to a hotel and spent the night researching HIV transmission rates. The statistics both comforted and terrified me. With his viral load undetectable and treatment, my risk might have been low. But might have been is a hell of a way to describe your life. David called 47 times. I let each one go to voicemail. Around 2 a.m., he switched to text. Please come home. I can't lose you. I'll do anything. I made a mistake. Mistake. As if 12 women and 6 months of deception was a wrong turn on the highway. At 3 a.m., a different text came through. From Jasmine. You finally found out. Good. That man is a disease wrapped in a Bible. My hands shook as I typed back, how long? Her response was immediate, 2 years on and off. He promised he'd leave you. Said you were emotionally distant. Played the victim so well I actually felt sorry for him. 2 years. Before the anniversary. Before his big sermon series on marriage. Before he stood in front of our church and wept about honoring your covenant. Did he tell you about the HIV? I typed. Found out myself 6 months ago. Got tested because I had symptoms. When I told him, he ghosted me. Blocked my number. I tried warning you through the church, but he intercepts all messages to you. The hotel room spun. He'd been controlling my information. Isolating me while pretending to be devoted. How many others knew? I asked. Most of them. We have a group chat. Someone suggested sending you his test results. I'm sorry we didn't do it sooner. A group chat. These women, his victims and co-conspirators, had been discussing him like a science project while I smiled obliviously in the front pew. My phone rang. David again. This time I answered. Thank God, he breathed. Baby, please. How many people at the church know? My voice was eerily calm. Silence. David. How many people know what you've been doing? Nobody, he said quickly. I've been careful. The women know. They have a group chat. How long before someone talks? Before it spreads through the congregation. I could hear him breathing, calculating. Always calculating. Then we control the narrative, he said, his pastoral voice sliding back into place. We go public first. Tell them we are working through a rough patch. Blame it on stress. Ministry pressure. They'll support us. Us. I laughed coldly. There is no us. I want a divorce. The line went dead silent. Celine, you can't. I hung up. By Monday morning, I'd hired a lawyer and a private investigator. By Monday afternoon, David had told the church elders we were taking a sabbatical to work on our marriage. By Monday evening, I was sitting across from Elder Thompson's wife, Maria, who'd specifically asked to meet me privately. What he told the board was a lie, Maria said, sliding a manila folder across the coffee shop table. I opened it. Bank statements. Hotel receipts. Screenshots of messages between David and women whose usernames suggested they weren't parishioners. Some dated back 5 years. My stomach hollowed out. How long have you known? 3 years. Maria's eyes filled with tears. I told my husband. He said without proof, we'd destroy David's ministry over rumors. Said I was being influenced by gossip spirits. 3 years, I repeated numbly. I'm so sorry, Celine. We failed you. I failed you. I kept hoping someone else would speak up, that he'd stop, that God would. Her voice broke. I made myself complicit through silence. I stared at the evidence. 5 years of betrayal, documented in black and white. 5 years while I planned church potlucks and led women's Bible study and thanked God for my faithful husband. There's more, Maria said quietly. 2 women from the congregation. One was 17 when it started. The coffee shop tilted. 17. She's 21 now. Scared to come forward because David told her no one would believe her. That his reputation would destroy hers. I thought about standing behind that pulpit. The power David wielded. How easy it would be to manipulate a teenage girl who saw him as God's chosen vessel. I need names, I said. Maria hesitated. They are terrified. I'm not reporting them. I'm building a case. I leaned forward. David thinks he can spin this as marital problems. Stress. A momentary lapse in judgment. I'm going to make sure everyone knows exactly who he is. Something shifted in Maria's expression. What do you need? Everything. Every woman. Every elder who knew and stayed silent. Every receipt, message, and witness. I met her eyes. I'm burning his kingdom down. Maria pulled out her phone. There are 12 of us. Elders' wives who've been gathering evidence and waiting for someone brave enough to light the match. She smiled grimly. Welcome to the rebellion. I smiled back for the first time in days. Wednesday night service was standing room only. David had called an emergency church meeting to address rumors. He stood behind that pulpit like he always had, confident, charismatic, wounded but forgiving. Brothers and sisters, he began, voice heavy with practiced emotion, the enemy has been attacking my household. Planting seeds of discord in my marriage through lies and deception. Murmurs of support rippled through the crowd. I sat in the back row, my lawyer beside me. My wife and I are going through a difficult season, David continued. But we serve a God of redemption. A God who restores what the enemy meant to destroy. More amens. Sister Ruth was already crying. So I asked for your prayers as we. Pastor David. My voice cut through the sanctuary. Every head turned. David's expression flickered, just for a second, before sliding back into pastoral concern. Yes, sweetheart. I stood, my heels clicking against hardwood as I walked down the center aisle. The lawyer projected the first image onto the screen behind the pulpit, David and a woman who wasn't me, entering a hotel. Gasps erupted. David's face went white. I have 12 of these, I said calmly. Would you like me to continue? Celine, this is not the time. Oh, but it is. Another image appeared. Him with another woman. And another. You wanted to control the narrative. Let me help you with that. The lawyer clicked to a spreadsheet. These are the financial records showing church funds used for hotel rooms and gifts for extramarital affairs. Chaos erupted. Elders stood. Women cried. David stumbled backward. And this, I said, my voice steady despite the tears streaming down my face, is his HIV positive test result. Dated 6 months before he told me. During which time he continued to be intimate with me without disclosure. Sister Maria stood. I knew 3 years ago and stayed silent. I'm so sorry, Celine. I'm sorry to everyone. Another elder's wife stood. I knew too. One by one, 12 women stood. The wives who'd been gathering evidence. Waiting for someone to strike the match. David's legs buckled. He gripped the pulpit. You're destroying everything I built. No, I said quietly. I'm revealing what you always were. You just hid better than most. I turned to face the congregation. The floor is yours. Ask him anything. He's your pastor, after all. Then I walked out of that church and never looked back. The story went viral within hours. Pastor exposed by wife in church showdown trended on Twitter. TikTok exploded with reaction videos. News outlets called my lawyer non-stop. David's megachurch fell apart in a week. Half the congregation left immediately. The board launched an investigation. 3 other women came forward with allegations. The district attorney opened a criminal case for misuse of church funds. His kingdom burned exactly like I promised. But nobody tells you about the cost of lighting that match. My mother called me a vindictive Jezebel for humiliating a man of God publicly. Old friends from church stopped texting. Women I'd done Bible study with for years accused me of seeking attention. You should have handled this privately, one said. This is between you and your husband, another added. You're destroying his ministry over a mistake. The irony wasn't lost on me. David could destroy our marriage, risk my health, steal from the church, and manipulate teenagers, but I was the villain for telling the truth too loudly. The therapy sessions were brutal. My counselor diagnosed PTSD, complex betrayal trauma. I'd wake up at 3 a.m. convinced I was still infected despite negative tests. Panic attacks hit without warning. Dating. Laughable. How do you explain to someone that your pastor husband gave you HIV exposure and a deep-seated fear of intimacy? But slowly, painfully slowly, I started rebuilding. I joined a support group for women who'd left abusive relationships. Turns out, emotional manipulation, control, and deception count as abuse even when there's no violence. I went back to school for the degree I'd abandoned to support David's ministry. I reconnected with the women who stood up that night. We formed something stronger than friendship, a sisterhood forged in truth-telling. And I started speaking. Conferences. Podcasts. Survivor groups. Telling my story to women still sitting in the front pew, still believing the lie that submission means silence. Your faith doesn't require you to be destroyed, I told them. Real love doesn't demand you minimize betrayal. And no man's reputation is worth more than your truth. The DMs flooded in. Hundreds of women. Thousands. All with variations of the same story, the pastor, the priest, the deacon who prayed on devotion. We'd been silenced by the same script: protect the ministry, forgive the man, preserve the illusion. I was done preserving illusions. The truth was ugly. Uncomfortable. Reputation destroying. And it set me free. 1 year later, I stood in that same church. It wasn't David's anymore. The board had forced him out. The building sold to a new congregation, one led by a woman pastor who believed survivors. I was there for a speaking engagement. From silence to strength, reclaiming faith after betrayal. As I sat up, a young woman approached. Early 20s, eyes nervous. You don't know me, she started. But I was the 17-year-old. From Maria's fire. My breath caught. I remember. She twisted her hands. I wanted to thank you. For being brave enough to speak first. I testified at his trial because you showed me silence wasn't protection, it was complicity. David had been sentenced to 4 years for embezzlement and fraud. The HIV exposure case was still pending. Criminal charges for the minor were harder to prove without more evidence, but the civil suits were piling up. How are you doing? I asked. Therapy. College. Learning to trust again. She smiled shakily. Some days are hell. But I'm not carrying his shame anymore. That's his to bear. We hugged, two women who'd survived the same predator dressed in righteousness. The room filled quickly. Over 300 women, many with similar stories. Pastors' wives. Deacons' daughters. Women who'd been told their abuse was God's will, their silence was virtue, their trauma was a test of faith. I stood at that pulpit where David once performed holiness and told them the truth. I didn't humiliate my husband. I revealed him. There's a difference. Heads nodded. Tissues emerged. He humiliated himself the first time he betrayed our vows. The first time he risked my health. The first time he used his position to manipulate a young girl. I just refused to keep his secrets. My voice steadied. And here's what I learned: the women who called me vindictive were protecting the system that benefits predators. The ones who said I should have stayed quiet were invested in the illusion more than the truth. I paused, looking at the faces before me. Your healing matters more than his reputation. Your safety matters more than church unity. Your truth matters more than his image. And if speaking up destroys a ministry, then that ministry deserves destruction. The room erupted in applause. Women stood, tears streaming, finally hearing someone say what they'd needed to hear for years. After the event, my phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. You destroyed my life. David. Still playing victim. I blocked it and turned to the line of women waiting to share their stories. Some would stay silent. Some would speak. But they'd know they had a choice. That night, I drove past the house David and I once shared. New owners had repainted it, planted different flowers. The Bible verse by the door was gone. I felt nothing looking at it. No longing. No bitterness. Just the quiet peace of a woman who'd walked through fire and come out forged in truth. My phone buzzed again. This time, a text from my lawyer. Civil suit settled. All survivors compensated. it's over. I pulled over and cried, not from sadness, but from the weight finally lifting. It wasn't the ending I'd prayed for 10 years ago when I married a man I thought was holy. But it was the ending I'd earned through the brutal work of choosing truth over comfort. I'd married a pastor and ended up humiliating him. No, I'd married a predator disguised as a pastor and ended up exposing him. And in doing so, I'd found myself. The drive home took me past the new church I'd joined, one where women weren't asked to be silent, small, or complicit.